Hey boys and girls, there's a couple of things I want to show you really quick about the powers of the president and impeachment. Most of this is going to be either written on page 22 of your notebooks or be done and completed in your packet. So here we go, I got about 10 minutes. Pause the video if you need to stop and catch up on any of the writing. Starting again with impeachment, we know that Article 2 of Section 1 gives the leader of our country special powers. We can call these executive powers, if you will. On page 22, we'll start with a review of impeachment. Remember, impeachment is accusing officials of wrongdoings or misuse of power. We've had a couple of examples earlier about Nixon, Andrew Johnson, and also Bill Clinton. So the process begins actually in the legislative branch. This is part of the checks and balances. Remember that the Senate over here and the House over there, they do the process of impeaching an official. So we start in the House. I'm going to grab a highlighter here. So when we start in the House comes up with the charges. They basically draw up the accusations. A simple majority vote, so one more than half, gets the charges made. If it passes there, it goes immediately on to the Senate. When we get to the Senate, remember that the Senate acts as the jury. Okay? They're going to hear both sides of the story. They're going to hear the prosecution, the group accusing the official of a crime, and they're also going to hear the defense, which is the official side of the story, to be fair. All right, 2/3 vote in the Senate gets the job done there, and impeachment is complete. Obviously, we're going to have to convict the president officially by that, and the Supreme Court justice serves as the judge in that case. You don't have to write what's down in blue here, but wanted to show you an example that even though Richard Nixon in the Watergate scandal was involved in a lot of things, abuse of power and obstruction of justice, there has never been a president forcefully removed from office. This is probably a good thing. Okay? Nixon actually resigned. That means he quit the office of the president before impeachment in full would have happened. Okay? On to conviction. Make sure you write this word down. Conviction has never happened in U.S. history. Same thing. Just what I talked about earlier. You need a 2/3 vote in the Senate. Has never happened before. Okay. On to this guy. Another great example. The closest man to impeachment was Andrew Johnson. He was a Democrat from the South during Abraham Lincoln's lifetime, 1860s. Okay, he would replace Lincoln when he was shot and killed by John Wilkes Booth in 1864, or 65 rather. All right, Andrew Johnson was not removed by a single vote in the Senate, so he was impeached in the House and it failed by one single vote in the Senate. That is something that is very good for him. So what saved him? You know, a lot of people hated this man. He was a Democrat. Lincoln was a Republican. And when a Democrat took over, he took the Southern Democratic ways, which was slavery, and tried to reinstill them into the nation after Lincoln got rid of them. So what he did is basically saved his own skin, we say. He turned over his policies towards radical Republicans, and the radical Republicans wanted to have equal rights for blacks and whites in all of the United States immediately after the Civil War. So by doing that, he saved his skin and saved his face and was not the first president impeached. Okay, so that was all done on page 22. You probably have a little space at the end. That's just fine. All right, now turning to the packet here, the side again that says powers of the president. So I'm going to go through the answers for you really quick, talk about what the answers are so that you can get them correct on the test. All right, I have this picture here of Barack Obama giving the State of the Union address. When we talk of Chief of State, I like to think of the State of the Union. Okay, easy because the word state is right there. And that is because he is the ceremonial head of the United States. So that means that Chief of State goes with G. Ceremony is like the State of the Union address. Okay? The chief executive, think CEO here, a business leader. Their job is to manage everything, carry out laws, and execute them. Okay? When we think about chief diplomat, the president's role there, the president has to direct foreign policy with other nations, making key decisions about the nation's relationships with other countries. So that's going to be B, chief diplomat. Diplomacy is using your mouth, blah, 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 trying to use your words to figure out a deal before you use force. When we talk about chief legislator, remember that I talked about legislation is laws, or laws are bills. So chief legislator is going to be letter F, where the president suggests legislation that he wishes to see enacted. President Trump likes this idea of a wall. So he's trying to convince Congress that a wall is needed. That would be one such example. Obama, before him, liked the idea of Obamacare, making affordable health care for everybody. So he tried to push that through. Okay? But the big key here is that legislation needs to be approved by Congress. Otherwise, it won't become a law. Chief of party. Chief of party basically means with Democrat president, former President Obama, or Republican current President Donald Trump, that they're the leader of the party, whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans. Whatever they are, they're the leader of that party. They're the face of it. Okay, so the leader of the party in charge of the E branch. That is C. Chief economic planner. The president, when he takes office, comes out with a plan, big long list of things he'd like to see done. This includes a spending plan and a plan for the economy. One of the things Donald Trump has done is kind of change and get rid of NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. He's created a different deal with Canada and Mexico, and because of that, D is the answer, okay? He helps submit a budget for the country, and Congress approves that. As a chief citizen, basically, the president is somebody who's supposed to represent all the people. Now, this is very questionable in this time in 2019 with Donald Trump. There's a lot of people that don't agree with him, yet there are tons of people that do agree with him. So this is hard. I think every president rides that double-edged sword all the time. They've got haters and they've got likers. And so basically, as chief citizen, the president's job is to be the example for everybody in the country. Finally, commander-in-chief. This one's easy. This is going to go up here with the armed forces and control of the military. Okay, that about does it there. On to the last thing. It's actually two parts. Okay, we're going to actually have you turn to the side of the packet that says more powers of the president. I'm going to do the top part last, and I'm going to give you the definitions of the president's 4 powers. Yes, that's quattro powers. All right, so I got this little picture here of George Bush here, the recent George Bush, checking all the powers of the president. All right, so we'll start with executive power. With executive power, and write this down, all the words in black, executive power allows the president to carry out the laws passed by Congress. So if it's passed by Congress, the president can enforce them. He can send in the military and get things done that way through force if necessary. He also lays out economic policies, as mentioned before, for the United States. The perfect example, you don't have to write this down, is Trump's deal with Canada and Mexico. See, he didn't like NAFTA, as I mentioned before. He wanted to create what he thought was a better deal to keep manufacturing jobs like car manufacturers and steel manufacturers. He wants to keep all of that in our country, and he believes that is best for us. NAFTA allowed those businesses to move to Canada and also to Mexico. Second one, diplomatic power. Remember, diplomatic power is all about diplomacy. Okay, diplomacy is talking. The president uses diplomacy or his words to influence others, including other countries. The president has the ability to make treaties with other countries, but it must be approved by the Senate with a 2/3 vote. All right, make sure you highlight that and underline that. That's extremely important. Okay, the president